Hey guys, what's up? Publik here, back with another video. This time we were looking at the dungeon Atal'Dazar. Did this guy on normal and heroic a few times. So we're going to go through all the trash, bosses, that kind of thing from the perspective of a shadow priest. So I'm not going to go too hard into you should take this talent for this dungeon, that kind of thing. It's going to be more about, as a shadow priest, how did this dungeon feel? What are the mechanics? What do things do? And overall, how this dungeon feels. So we're going to get right into this. We don't have a whole lot of trash here, and what I love about this dungeon particularly is that it's pretty open. So it's a 4-boss instance, so you can kill the first 3 bosses in any order that you want. So for mob pathing and a Mythic Plus perspective, I really like that approach. It's kind of similar to various dungeons we've had before where we can kind of pick the path we want to go down, although this is a lot more open than we've had in the past. So, and as far as trash goes here, there's a few... for some reason in Battle for Azeroth, I think Blizzard's trying out some newer trash mechanics that we haven't necessarily seen a whole lot, especially in Mythic Plus. There are a lot of mobs in here that like to do both random charges and stuns and fears. They happen all the time in this dungeon, I feel like. And a lot of it is too, there's another mob pack that even the mobs just sporadically jump to players all the time. So it's very similar to like the dogs in Maw of Souls. So they're kind of experimenting with a lot of make it harder for the entire group to be able to AoE a single pack of mobs at the same time. So the mobs aren't as stacked as they always are, and certain people are basically getting charged and stunned. Kind of like quaking, but kind of built into the dungeon a little bit, and basically for every raid member. So we'll kind of cover the trash as we come through to it. But first things first, we're going to go ahead and look at one of the first 3 bosses. This is Priestess Alun'za, I believe is how you say that. So this boss is actually really interesting. I really enjoyed it. The first time I did it, I really had no idea what I was doing because it was on heroic and these mechanics didn't really matter in normal, so I didn't pay attention to them. So you'll probably see me mess these up a little bit here. But the idea with this boss is, so she summons Spirit of Gold ads that you have to kill. Pretty straightforward. And she also has like golden balls that come out. You want to avoid these at all possible throughout the dungeon. So there's constantly stuff coming around you that you need to dodge, and the longer you're in the fight, the more of these things that there are. The other thing she casts, which is really interesting, is Transfusion. So I'm not quite sure how often it is. It might be like 30 seconds or a minute or something, but you'll probably see someone yelling about me not doing it because I totally messed this up. But basically, before she casts Transfusion, or while she's starting the cast, you want to soak these blood pools on the ground, and what that does is it puts a dot on you. And when she casts Transfusion on you, if you don't have that dot, she just takes your health and heals herself. But if you have the blood pool, instead of healing herself with your health pool, she'll actually damage herself. So this is definitely kind of a... I don't want to say it's going to be hard in Pugs the first couple of weeks, but definitely it's going to be... the boss will take a bit longer if you don't know what you're doing. Like me, it's your first time, you're not paying attention. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And overall, I thought that was kind of an interesting mechanic. They haven't really played with that too much here. So you can see eventually I got it right here on this first boss. But yeah, I didn't do the best job of it. So there's that. And then after you kill the one of the first 2 bosses, you get to go down to this platform. I guess you do whatever you want. And they have some like little, typical troll dungeon stuff with like flames coming out of the walls and like little gauntlets of that kind of stuff. So you go through that. And basically you get to the center platform area where all the kind of first 3 bosses meet, and you kind of get, this is where you start to get to choose your pathing, where you want to go down. So when we get to this middle bridge, you'll start to see what I'm talking about. These are the little kind of pterodactyl ads that will jump to random players, and the main ad also does an AoE fear that needs to be interrupted. So it's not that bad, but your group definitely needs to be on top of interrupts. You got to be careful how many of these you pull, because if you pull more than one, which is pretty easy to do depending on like where things are, you got to make sure you can handle the interrupts. Also in the middle, there's like a mini boss guy like sitting in the middle, and I don't quite understand his purpose right now. Almost every group I've done this with you can just skip it. You can just walk right past it. So maybe it might be a bug on the beta, but right now you're not required to kill this guy to actually go on to the final boss. So some of the groups I've done have actually have killed him, but nothing has really changed from that. So there's that. And basically, after you do this, you get the option. Again, the first T boss, you can do it any order you want. So you can go down below where there's a T-Rex boss that's kind of roaming around. Or you can go to the other side where we find another boss named Vol'kaal, I think is how you say his name. So before we get there, we'll kind of talk about some of this other trash. So now we get into the troll side of the dungeon, away from the pterodactyls a little bit more. And there is a few mechanics here that are important. There's two that I want to call out. The first one is Bulwark of Juju. It's basically it's a shield that the mob puts down and makes him immune to all attacks that come through. So you just want to make sure that you stun him out of that, grip him out of that, do something. You can't interrupt that cast. It's only stunnable or whatever. Then the other one that happens is a polymorph. Again, we don't see a whole lot of these. This polymorph can be dispelled, but you need to be careful with it because anyone that is around you in like a 5-10 yard or area around the player that gets polymorphed, once they get dispelled or once it falls off, anyone in that circle also gets polymorphed. So you definitely want to coordinate with your healer here, because if you get an immediate dispel and you're sitting in melee, you're going to polymorph the whole group. So the idea is here, you'll get one person will get polymorphed, that person runs out, either gets a dispel or waits for it to expire. That's how you handle the mechanic. So it's not that bad, but again, can be kind of hard in a pug if people aren't paying attention. So now we'll go on to the second boss that I killed in this playthrough. So this is Vol'kaal, like I said. This boss is actually really interesting. He has, or at least on Heroic, he has 3 reanimation totems on both normal and Heroic. The idea with these, you want to kill them at the same time. Once you kill one, it starts a timer. And if you don't clear all 3 within that timer after you kill the first one, they regen health and bad things happen. Right, so you want to make sure you kill them all relatively close to each other. What wasn't really a problem for us in Heroic, obviously when you get higher up into Mythics, this will be something you'll need to really coordinate at, but as a multi-daughter class, this was pretty nice, fun to do. And then once you get to the actual boss, because he's immune during those times you're killing the totems, forgot to say that. The rest of it's pretty straightforward, nothing too bad is happening. It's honestly just he spawns a pool like every 5 seconds under each player's feet. So you just start at one corner of the room and then work your way through it, kind of in a line, and you want to make sure you're not overlapping with other people. And then as he goes throughout the fight, he has like a debuff on him that makes him deal more damage and take more damage. So he kind of has a soft enrage throughout the entire encounter. So this boss might be a giant pain in the butt on Tyrannical. We'll have to see, but yeah, definitely kind of he's ramping up his damage throughout the fight. So the tank, it's again just a Heroic, but on Tyrannical we might actually notice this boss might hit pretty hard. There's also like a stacking dot that happens on the whole raid depending on how things go, but other than that, the boss is pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy here. Now, after you kill this second boss, like I said, you then have no options. You have to kill the third boss. Once all the first 3 are defeated, then you get to go on to the final boss of the instance. So we'll go ahead and go down here to this guy. So this is Rezan. If you've done the quest line, you know who this guy is. I won't say anything. Although this might have already spoiled it for you if you haven't looked into things. But regardless, so this boss is a little buggy right now. The idea with him is that there's 2 big mechanics, right? The first one, there are purple pools all along the ground. Anyone that steps over a purple pool will spawn an ad. And on Heroic and Mythic and everything above that, right, if the boss walks over a pool, he will spawn an ad as well. So the idea with this is you kind of want to tank him in a spot where no one's going to trip over these pools. However, you also need to be able to line of sight the boss when he casts his terrifying visage, I think that's what it's called. Yep. And some of the walls here don't exactly line of sight correctly. So all the groups that I've found like to tank him kind of around the staircase here and use the staircase as a line of sight point. But there are walls like the waterfall on the left-hand side and things like that that don't count for that. The other thing he does, he also focuses a player and targets them with Devour. This mechanic kind of sucks here. It's almost better, I think, to just eat the Devour with the cooldown, just because if you run him over a purple pool, he's going to spawn them, and you don't want that. You'd rather pop a defensive than get eat by the Devour, in my opinion. You also can't run him out of the zone either, so this one's kind of tricky. You can probably tank him alongside the edge if you want to, if you get targeted, but this is the big mechanic here. So overall, kind of an interesting boss. A little bit annoying that some walls don't line of sight like they should, but that's neither here nor there. So guys, after you kill those first 3 bosses, you're basically just making your way up to the final platform. Like I said, you can skip this mini boss, not too crazy there. And then you're going to walk up to the final boss's platform. It's kind of a little, not really a gauntlet, but there are spider ads along the staircase that you want to avoid, otherwise it'll do damage, slow people, all that kind of stuff. And then we get to the final boss of this instance, which is Yasma. This boss is actually kind of interesting. Like they did some different mechanics here. The idea with this is a couple different things. One of the bigger ones is that she spawns ads from players that need to die. If they hit the boss, I believe they give her health and some kind of a buff that is not good. So basically, you'll have the whole raid stacked on the opposite side with the boss. Have everyone spawn their ads together. These guys can be slowed, stunned, whatever. AoE them down, destroy them. Good to go. And then throughout the fight, she'll also have spiders spawn throughout the platform. Kind of seems to be like near players. So the idea with this is you want to kind of start in one position in the room and slowly work your way to other positions in the room. And then eventually you'll basically swap position with the tank. That way you have more room to work with. Because the whole idea is you need enough time for the ads to walk and get killed before they reach the boss without healing her and doing bad stuff. So eventually we swapped like positions with the tank, and he went to a different position. And then just kind of rinse and repeat from there. The same spiders you saw on the staircase spawn throughout this boss, and you need to avoid them. And the whole big part of this is being able to control when should I kill the ads, when should I just focus the boss, you know, can you slow, stun them, all that kind of stuff here. But that's really it for this final boss. Kind of interesting. I think it's a neat concept. It's kind of like a Harbor on a Mall of Souls to the extreme almost with the ad spawns, but that's kind of the idea here. And otherwise, the boss is pretty straightforward. There are some casts that she does on the tank, but nothing too crazy here. Alright guys, so that is it for Atal'Dazar. And this one was a bit longer. It was kind of went through more of the heroic mechanics, but that's it for this guy. If you have any questions on this dungeon or other things, leave a comment in the description down below. And if you have any suggestions for content you want to see on the beta, shout out Priest related or not, let me know in there as well. Alright guys, that's it for this one. See you in the next one.